We're back here on Hack City. Joe DeLeone, Sean Anderson, two former college football players at the University of Rhode Island. We're here to talk about the craziness that happened with Week 12. If you're looking for FCS content, we're going to be doing a full bracket prediction tomorrow. That's going to be coming out. That's not going to be a live stream show, but today we've got a lot to talk about with the FBS. Sean, by the way, did you catch any of the stuff that happened with the bracket? Just really quick.
We'll have a breakdown.
Okay. I'm dumbfounded by the Montana State thing, I gotta say.
I'm sure they deserve to be 4. I'm sure.
Right. I'd love to hear your argument. I was talking with the Reddit FCS guys when I was on their Twitter space, and I did my own little quick react, and I got a lot of likes from Montana State fans that seemed to agree with me that it was pretty stupid. But we're at that point in time, Sean, for the FBS where there's going to be a lot of stupidity, a lot of arguing, a lot of debating of, which team with too many losses deserves to be in the playoff. And it's going to be part of today's discussion because of what happened with Tennessee, because of what happened with USC's win. And then also, TCU.
Spoiler, it's not going to be Tennessee making the playoff.
Well, that shouldn't be the spoiler. The real talking point, though, is what do we do with LSU? What do we do with USC? We're going to get to that and more today. Sean, could you share with our listeners a word from BetOnline? By the way, I was really I don't know why I keep doing this, Sean. I keep having really successful college betting days. I went 5 for 7 yesterday, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to roll this into some NFL betting, and I get way too high on myself. And then I go like 1 for 4, and then I lose all of my money. But
I get it. Trust me, I get it. You set yourself up on Saturday to have a nice Sunday, and then you lose it all on Sunday. Yeah. Unfortunately, this weekend, 2-0 last night on the bet on USC to cover 2.5. I took Oregon live in the fourth quarter when they were tied at 17 a pop.
What was that line? What were the odds on that?
I don't know, like -110 or something like that.
Just because it was. I got it plus odds. I bet it. I picked Oregon money line, and I was really hyped about that one because I took it. Took them straight.
As we're speaking right now, I have a 2-team parlay with the Dallas Cowboys money line and the Bengals money line. And I got that at very good odds as well. So pretty happy about how I'm doing with betting. And if you want to be happy, fat and happy like I am, then head to BetOnline. It's always the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Sean, I also have a Bengals bet that looks like it's going to cash. I took them to cover, and then I also took the over. So it's been a bit hit or miss. But what wasn't hit or miss was South Carolina's offense yesterday, Sean.
Oh, yeah.
Out of nowhere. They dropped 60 points on the Volunteers. It was announced today that Hendon Hooker is going to be down with an ACL injury. He is not going to be returning.
Awful.
We can all assume that it is season ending. And for anyone who checks out the draft show, I'm sure that Ryan and I are going to talk about what that means for his draft projection, because there was a lot of talk, and we were saying that as well, that he could be a first-round pick. But that game yesterday, the Cox came. Cockvember is here. And Sean doesn't like my Cockvember bit.
I'm just readjusting my hat. You haven't walked me yet.
They couldn't handle the cock that came for them.
Now you walked me.
That came for them last night. 63 points. And Sean, I had been saying this the entire year. It wasn't news that Tennessee's secondary was bad. It was really bad. I pointed out at one point that they were one of the worst 2 secondaries in the country, ahead of only Ohio, which gave up 500 yards to Fordham of all teams. They eventually, I think they were at 7th this week. They got embarrassed. They got completely boat raced by Spencer Rattler and Jaheim Bell of all people. Now, before we kind of talk implications here, Sean, what was going through your head in that game, man? Because the whole thing was a mess. I tried paying attention to it. I kept thinking like, oh, they're only down by 14. Tennessee can score those points that quickly, and then it just kept getting bigger and bigger and later into the game.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Tennessee and all their fans for blowing it this season. You really blew it bad. And you blew it bad because it's only going to be one Big Ten winner after what we saw on Saturday. There's only going to be one that's in the playoff because Ohio State squeaked by Maryland. You guys squeaked by. And then Michigan toe-to-toe with Illinois. There's only one that's going to
make it. And they benefited from some very favorable officiating too.
Very favorable. Michigan fans can go screw. Hope the Buckeyes hang 50 on you next week for giving you that gift of a game this weekend. I know why they did it. They want to have all the eyes on this matchup coming up on Saturday. But look, there's only going to be one from the Big Ten. There might only be one from the SEC. So you're looking at Georgia, and I hate to bury the lead here, but for Tennessee fans, you gotta really soak and feel this one. All right, you gotta have Georgia. Yeah. You're gonna have either Michigan or Ohio State. It's looking like you're gonna have TCU, and now you might have USC slinking their way in there. And that's now you got one from each conference. Congratulations, everybody! Big round of applause for Tennessee for choking that thing away.
Yeah, Tennessee is completely out of it. There's no reason to actually even. I don't think there's any possible scenario that they can make it into it, because it's not even like they were upset by South Carolina. They were embarrassed. They gave up a ton of points. It is going to be a miracle for them to even finish this season with Joe Milton at quarterback, because they're his own limitations. But it stinks because you're technically even one of those Tennessee fans, because you became a self-proclaimed one this season.
Yeah.
And everyone thought that they were back, and apparently that they're not. We were duped. Would you agree with that statement, that we were maybe misled by some favorable headlines and some favorable, I don't want to say that they were favorably covered by the media, because that's not the way that I want to put this.
I think it was good for college football for Tennessee to be relevant for 8 weeks. It was good for college football for Tennessee to beat Alabama in the fashion that they did. And there were times where Tennessee looked like a really legit team. There were times. Obviously, frauds. Obviously, fraud. But at times, you're sitting here like, oh, man, we got a barn burner here in the SEC. Tennessee out of nowhere this year. Oh, Ole Miss is making noise. Embarrassed themselves also on Saturday.
That's a completely mute point that is that the right usage of that word? Moot point. Jesus Christ. I've been drinking too much this weekend. But that's like something that loss, the North Carolina loss, that kind of gets buried underneath the top 3 headlines of these big games that we're going to be talking about. That like Ole Miss got embarrassed, which completely discredits the depth of the SEC this season.
I think we were texting or talking on the phone or something like that. It might not have been you. I might have talked about drinking too much on the weekend, but
you didn't text me.
The fact that now Clemson is somewhat being considered, and they're not, and they shouldn't, because they stink and they're bigger frauds than Tennessee. But the fact that it's even possible for them to be considered because Tennessee just embarrassed themselves, is harmful to the sport.
It really, and it was something that crossed my mind yesterday in the fallout of all this, because the reality is, and we're going to get this in a second, but I want to wait to get to this fully, but there is now a possibility for Clemson to maybe make a path. I want to wait till we talk about this USC game before we kind of really dive into the semantics of the likelihood of the playoff. But to that final point on the Tennessee game, like, I mean, like, is there any recovering here? Like, what is there? Like, what are they even hoping for? A New Year's Six bowl game? Is that like what at the very most that they can get after that? It just stinks. I'm just so unbelievably frustrated, because it was such a fun storyline that we could talk about Tennessee every single week, because they weren't the same fucking face that we were seeing with all these other teams
over again.
Always
Josh
Georgia, Ole Miss.
His act hasn't worn thin on anybody yet.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. It's a very likable team, and you're looking at it, you're like, you did it. You did it to us too early. It's too early for you to be doing us like this. If you made the 4 in the cut and you lose bad in the playoffs, okay, then we can have the conversation about it. But now it's just, I don't know. Let your seniors get some more film. Maybe they get invited to a bowl game or a combine. That's what you're playing for.
While Tennessee's hopes are completely dead at this point, USC's are more alive than ever. After they lost to Utah, I think that a lot of people assumed their possibility of making the playoff were completely out the window. Now they have a chance to get 2 more ranked wins against Notre Dame and Oregon. I believe that's their inevitable opponent in the Pac-12 off the top of my head, based on the fact that they won last night.
I believe so.
2 more ranked wins should put them into the playoff. But first of all, I got to say, and we've got a comment here from Fresh saying that Duggan might be the Heisman winner. the way that Caleb Williams played in this game, the way that he took it over 470 yards, that one throw he had running to his left, completely just twisted his body midair, threw the ball like it was nothing. The guy is far and away the best player on his team. But that's the whole point of the award. It's supposed to go who is carrying their team and helping them ascend to the level that they're capable of. And they're playing past where they're any other quarterback. If that's Jackson Dart still, they're not as good as they are right now.
Yeah, Duggan is up there for me also because I don't know how many more fourth quarter comebacks TCU needs to make with that guy at the helm for us to start putting some respect on his name. Mm-hmm. Caleb Williams did what you need your star quarterback to do, and that is be poised, be confident, make the throws that he needs to make, and then if you need some magic to happen, he can also do that. So you're looking at it. USC, they've been in worse positions. Now it'll be because I'm also a USC fan.
Oh, fuck off. Fuck off.
Strictly to spite you. But Notre Dame beating Boston College 44-0 only helps USC for the race.
Yeah.
Because Notre Dame looks stronger. So USC now looking at another quality win against Notre Dame. And that's a pretty good resume. If you have one loss to a Utah team that caught you, but they also only beat you by 2 points. And now
it's on the road.
Yeah. And now you're sitting here like, this USC team's got some players.
Right.
They got a quarterback that we can advertise for the college football playoff also. Heisman candidate, Caleb Williams, in the college football playoff. I think that has a good ring to it.
Yeah, way more than what it has for LSU. And this is the debate that's now being sparked. And I went on the SEC kickoff show that I did with Blake, and I got boat raced.
I'm sure he wasn't. I'm sure he wasn't biased towards a certain team.
No, but he kicked my ass in an argument. Like I tried to come prepared for the argument of why TCU and USC are more deserving of it. And he worked my ass. I tried to support my argument, but I could not provide as much information as he could. I was not prepared. But I think after this weekend, to your point, if we're trying to produce the most entertaining matchups and storylines possible for the playoff,
teams, yeah,
the best teams, it's USC. And we're going to end up getting to TCU in a second. But specifically with USC, they are going to have the resume with the ranked wins. They're going to have the resume with the offensive production, with the Heisman likely winning quarterback in Caleb Williams. He's going to win the Heisman after that game, the performance that he put together. Like that is what you want from a guy that is going to win the award. There has been nobody else that has stepped up and put together that type of a game. And the one thing I will say is that the argument to be made where USC's roster is not as good as some of the other teams that are competing for the playoff, their secondary stinks. Their offensive line's mediocre. But if Tennessee was in the conversation with how bad their secondary was, I think USC can compete. And at the very least, they can get into a shootout and they have the offensive firepower to score quick enough that they deserve to be in one of these matchups, and they can keep it close, but maybe not finish out if they end up being that fourth team and they're playing up against Georgia.
Yeah, I haven't seen them get embarrassed this year. And also, I haven't seen LSU get embarrassed, to Blake's point, except for week one. But that was week one, new coach, brand new team, basically. And it's just week one. All right, so we could forgive a lot from week one. Since then, they haven't been embarrassed. But USC, zero.
Well, they did get embarrassed by Tennessee.
Oh, LSU did?
Yeah, it was like it's like I completely forget about it too. It's like such a.
Is LSU 2-loss? They are 2-loss, aren't they?
They're 2 losses, but they are playing in the SEC championship game against Georgia. So that is an inevitable, likely third loss. It is very unlikely that they win that football game.
Very much so. If they do, then boy, oh boy, is that going to fill an hour. That'll fill an hour for both of us.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah.
Wait, hey, Sean, what's on the show sheet today? What do you have prepped? This.
One thing. Because the rest of the conference championship games are all like we can predict who's going to win them. It's all it's probably going to be Clemson. It's probably going to be Ohio State or Michigan, whoever wins the game this weekend. And then it's probably going to be
TCU
USC and TCU.
Yeah. It's probably going to be UConn.
In the Independent Bowl.
Yeah. They stink.
Wait, who did Oh, I bet on them to beat Army. I was really upset that I put my money on UConn. It was the
Uh,
consistently letting me
the
down.
military academies had themselves a day. You see the stat where they completed 6 total passes, but they had across the Air Force, Navy, and
Yeah.
Army, and they had a total of 954 yards on the ground. They all won.
Yeah.
And Navy beat UCF.
But
What the fuck are we doing?
but
College
see that
football stinks.
but
College football stinks.
But that's how I know it was a great weekend of college football when the talking point, and like we even said it when we were preparing for our preview show. And I'm sure that, Dan and Pat were all saying the same thing for
Oh,
your
and Russ.
show.
Yeah.
And Russ, I was blanking on who the third host's name is. They were probably all saying the same thing, that it was an uneventful week. It was an incredibly uneventful week.
On paper, it was going to be a snoozer.
And it ended up being one of the wildest weeks that we've had this season.
Oh my God. The Baylor, the Michigan game back to back within 20 minutes. What a flip back in the early hours of between those two games. That was a fantastic TV flip back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was and then you had that little gap where it was still some good football on, but then you knew USC UCLA was coming on at 8.
Oh
my
God.
You're like, okay, let's get to it. We can all kind of relax and chill out, maybe take a nap. 8 o'clock comes on, the boys are drinking. And then we're watching this game because this is what we've been waiting for.
It rolls into the Oregon-Utah game, which ended up
Yes.
being a really competitive, fun game to watch as well. But the one funny thing that I saw somebody shared, this is an original thought, that Minnesota, Iowa, which was decided on an interception and a game-winning field goal, it was 13-10, was played only a few hours before the 40 on 40 point battle between USC and UCLA. The hilarity of that. And the bigger irony is that Iowa is also in contention to compete for a Big Ten championship, which is even more fucked up.
The Big Ten West. And admittedly, before I started working on the other show, I didn't know much about the history or the conferences and who's really good and who's been bad. The Big Ten West has been taken to the woodshed every single
because all those teams
week.
stink. All those teams in the West are terrible.
The guys can spend. I'm almost at sometimes like, hey, we got to give this conference a break, fellas. I'm thinking like, because they can go for 5 minutes. They're total pros and they're ready to. And then it can also transfer into a 15-minute beating of the Big Ten West, and then it's what coaches should stay. I mean, dude, it's a Today Show that released, and this is basically just me talking to you. We're not doing a show right now, but it was all right. What's LSU's chances? And they started going into the conference championships and stuff like that. And if you and they started talking about the possibility of Iowa winning the Big Ten. I couldn't believe another who got thrown into the mix. Talking about Iowa and how bad they are, and that they're still contending. The Big Ten West is hideous,
and it's perfectly poetic that they are in competition for a conference championship. But so back to our point before we got distracted by what is the biggest eyesore in college football. That's the worst part about the Big Ten West, is that we can sit here and get distracted by it, and like you're talking about on the College Football Inquirer, those guys are getting distracted by it, and now we're getting distracted by it
because it's just like. You have Iowa, you have Minnesota, Wisconsin, and you're like, what the fuck is Wisconsin doing? What happened to them?
It's like watching two idiots that bumped into each other. It's not like a huge car crash. It's just two idiots that bumped into each other, pulled off to the side of the road, but they're sitting there arguing and they might throw punches.
Sure.
And you're just like, why am I watching this?
What's all this traffic for?
Yeah.
You're like, sometimes when you're in traffic, you're like, there better be a 10-car pileup with the fire department and give me the National Guard, making sure everyone's okay. And then you cross by and it's like somebody's side view mirror is off. I'm like, I just sat in 15 minutes of traffic because you pulled over and you got your side mirror clipped. This is unacceptable. That is what the Big Ten West is.
But it's like the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile crashed into a falafel truck. And you're like,
sure.
I can kind of get why I'm stopping to look at this. But at the same time, can we keep moving forward, please? Like, this is completely distracting.
I almost got in a dozen car wrecks this weekend. People, I mean, I don't know how. I'll talk about it another time. I have a fix for nationwide traffic. I have a solution. I've thought it out. It works. It's going to work.
What's the solution?
Biannual, every 2 years, you go in, you get tested. You do a driver's test in an all-weather simulation. It takes 15 minutes. You get a grade for how you perform in traffic, rain, snow, fog, clear day. You get a grade. And then with all those, that gives you basically have a permit, A through F, basically. And you are then permitted to drive in the weather or the status that is happening. So if you are clear, if you have a B level permit and that allows you to do everything but rain or everything but snow, and it's snowing out, and you still decide to drive because we can't enforce it, we're not going to put trackers or anything in it, but you still decide to drive, you're going to court. You're going to court. You got a heavy ass fine. You're going to have to defend that. But you have 2 years to get better, basically. And then if you're an A-level driver, $100 gas card. Here you go. That is some incentive to get you in there.
Sean Anderson for town council.
You get 2 free tanks of gas.
Hi, I'm Sean Anderson. Vote for me for town council.
Okay, you're trying to discredit me.
No, I mean, I like the idea. I think logistically it might be difficult to organize.
Difficult to organize. It can't be less organized than what the DMV already is.
That is true. Well, that's because it's underfunded.
Understood. You have one simulator in the back. You got one guy giving a grade, or you have an algorithm giving a grade. You get on a little track, and it gives you the weather conditions. Go ahead, do that once every 2 years. You have 2 years to renew your patent license.
Well, I mean, you can put one of those trackers in people's cars.
I don't want to track the people. I'm not trying to track the people. You're just going to get hit. Oh, God. And for the people that try to get away with it and they crash in the snow or the fog or the rain, you are getting hit heavy. It's your fault automatically. It doesn't matter if you got clipped from the blind side by somebody driving while talking on their phone. If they were permitted to drive in that weather and you were not, you're going in jail. You're getting it's your fault because you weren't even supposed to be on the road in the first place. This is how we fix it. You don't drive if you're not allowed to drive in the rain. Emergencies, you can fight for that. You can go in there and say, oh my God, my mom was in the hospital. I had to go check on her. I had to go do this. And then that's up to the jury. That is up to the jury to see if you have enough. No, I'm not physically stopping anybody from driving. I'm levying. I'm trying to decentivize them from driving in conditions they're incapable of.
What I'm learning here, Sean, is that we need to open the show with driving related questions so that you have more. I've never seen you with this much energy in the middle of a show.
I'm sick of almost having my car, and it's the first time I bought my own car, and I keep it clean, and I make sure it's nice, and I don't want anybody to touch it with their cars, and they try to. Oh, they try to touch it with their cars. They try to run me off the road. They try to crash into me. No more.
All right, Sean. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
2 minutes of learning to drive with Sean.
Obviously, the chat is not very inspired by my.
Oh, they're absolutely
you know why?
not.
Because they're all bad drivers. They're all bad drivers right now that's watching live. That's why they're not. I don't think anyone's going to and applauding me and carrying me on their shoulders.
How is anyone going to come in here and disprove this? Speaking of the chat, Sean, I would like to get some comments.
Sure.
I think you really should make that into your town council ad. How old do you need to be to run for town council? Is that like a?
I'll run right now. I'm seeing 18-year-old mayors popping up all over the country.
Yeah. Well, or dogs too. I mean, if a dog could be mayor, you could too.
I don't think I have a shot against a dog.
Aimbotter's asking us which loss was more embarrassing: Clemson's loss to Notre Dame or Tennessee's loss to South Carolina. It's the South Carolina loss.
It's the latter. It is the South Carolina loss.
As bad as Notre Dame has been at times this season, and two of their 3 losses are against really bad, like bottom tier teams. South Carolina is getting their asses kicked by every SEC team, like every bad SEC team. And Notre Dame beat North Carolina. Like Notre Dame's beating all of the supposed good ACC teams. Like their resume is a little more deserved than the South Carolina one. So it sounds like you agree with me on that.
Yeah, the South Carolina loss is super embarrassing, and it's just a team that decided not to go out there. And I know you lost your quarterback. I know it was bad. I know you were fighting in the game. At times in the third quarter, it was tight, 1-score game. Oh, Tennessee's going to get back. Quarterback gets hurt. Really, really tough situation. I get it. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have gotten to that It shouldn't have gotten to that.
Well, they clearly were they were asleep at the start of the game.
Yeah.
I think they just kind of waltzed in thinking like, oh, it's South Carolina. Like we're a little hungover from the past couple games. The Georgia loss is kind of still hanging on us. We're just going to get through this game and going to walk right into the playoff. And you're kind of reading your own headlines there, and you inevitably are unprepared, which they looked incredible. I don't think everybody fully realizes how unprepared you have to be to give up 60 points to Spencer Rattler, who over the stretch of I don't even know how many games, I don't even know if he's thrown for over 250 the whole season. But I know he was struggling to hit 200 over the past few games. That loss is bad. It's really bad.
It really is. That's the most embarrassing.
Yeah.
Very, very embarrassing.
Sean, Clemson versus South Carolina. Who are you picking?
Oh. You're gonna make me pick Clemson?
Well, see, before South Carolina upset Tennessee, I actually was going to pick South Carolina.
I don't think Dabo loses this game. I don't think Dabo loses the game. I think he would have them coached and ready to go.
If there were a year and an instance for South Carolina to upset Clemson, it would be now. They're coming off of the high of beating Tennessee, which is, their Super Bowl this season, and this is a rivalry game for them.
Sure.
I think that might be enough momentum for them to walk in, play Clemson, and if they're throwing the ball around the yard the way that they did against Tennessee, which is not going to be as easy because Clemson's defense is significantly better, if they get half of that production, score 35 points, I don't trust DJU or Klubnik, whoever starts at quarterback, to match that offensive production. I think it's possible. It's a possibility. I'm not saying it's a likelihood, but I think that it is an unexpected possibility to occur.
It is if Shane Beamer wants to take some momentum into the next season and not just say, hey, we had this really good win against Tennessee one time this year, and they say, oh, we beat Tennessee and Clemson, then maybe he would have to really rally and inspire the troops to get back on the horse and really focus up for this game, because South Carolina, I've been down there. I've partied down there. I haven't partied with athletes down there, but I've partied, and I understand how easy it is to have a lack of focus.
So you're saying that the guys are going to be distracted after the win?
Easy to get distracted down in South Carolina. It's easy to get distracted even if you brought somebody down in South Carolina with you. It's easy to get distracted and have wandering eyes, perhaps, that causes a huge fight. Dude,
we're close to home here, brother.
South Carolina is the best time on earth. It's the best. I don't know. I'm good.
Are your friends okay? Did this happen to somebody specifically that you're aware of?
Don't worry about it. But I'm saying right now, you need to understand, if you're South Carolina, how big of a possible win it would be to go from Tennessee to Clemson back to back.
So your analysis is that South Carolina is a region of debaucherous activity,
dude,
an adulterous debaucherous activity, and that is why they can't beat Clemson. That's what the 1-to-1 math is there.
Well,
I'm not knocking it. I kind of like it, but I just want to try and fully articulate what this thought is.
Well, maybe somebody who we both know that might be on this show currently decided that he wanted to get drinks out while he was under 21 and just handed the waitress his regular ID that showed that he was only 20, and she accepted it, no holds barred and no questions.
All right, that's a fair point.
It is lawless in South Carolina.
I will say, seeing the way that the students reacted, and then also the way that the players reacted to the win, it's a great win. Obviously, huge win. But if there were if there was evidence to provide here that South Carolina could be distracted and hang their hat off of this one win, I think your context is important.
It would be a very South Carolina thing to do, is what I'm saying.
And 60 hung on you or 50 hung on you by Clemson?
To maybe celebrate rather hard after a big win like that, which they should. Go celebrate, have a good time. But you know how it goes. Well,
they're bowl eligible, and that's a big deal for South Carolina because it's the most that they're gonna get to. So Fresh is asking, can y'all see Bama in the playoffs still? I'd rather have them in the top 4. Please keep USC out. But that's not going to, Fresh. I'm sorry, but
it's not their year.
If you win the conference and you have one loss, you're getting in. You deserve to get in.
It's time to have a college football playoff without Alabama involved. And it's not some conspiracy theory. It's a matter of fact. They lost 2 games. And they lost to fraudulent Tennessee, who is now fraudulent. And they lost to LSU under Brian Kelly in his first year.
And the Ole Miss win doesn't look as good either, too.
It doesn't look good. It's time. It's the year. We can't have it.
Sorry, I'm blocking the porn bots. Another comment from Aimbotter, and then we got some comments from Brian. Again, anyone joining us, feel free to drop a comment below. We're gonna get to all of them, and then we're gonna talk about TCU in a second, though. How do you think Clemson's defense played? They only allowed 98 total yards. Who the hell did Clemson play?
Miami.
Okay. Aimbotter, I'm hoping you're not a Clemson.
That's very impressive.
That is the least impressive 98-point total. I would be more impressed if it was an FCS team, if I'm being completely honest, because I know more talented and better coached FCS teams than Miami.
Yeah,
two people cover it.
Ja'Cory Brown, 6 for 13 passing, 53 yards and a pick. And then he was also the leading rusher with 10 carries for 22 yards. 68 total yards through the air, 30 on the ground. Oh.
Yeah,
okay,
so I want to bring this up because you kind of brought it up earlier.
Sure.
There is now this indirect path for Clemson to maybe make it into the playoff. I don't think it's likely, but I think that
there's a path for people to talk about it is what the path is for. There's a path for people to bring it up.
Like I'm doing right now?
Yes, which I don't think that I don't think either of us would like to have to do.
Well, it's not. I don't care about bringing it up. I don't mind talking about it because I know where I stand, and I know that they don't belong in the playoff. What is really disheartening for me is that we've got all these better teams that decided to take a nap this week or in other weeks that is going to has already forced them out of the conversation. And because Clemson is going to be a one-loss conference-winning program, they're probably going to beat North Carolina after the fact that they lost to Georgia fucking Tech of all teams to lose to. But again, for Clemson to be one loss, win their conference, and if we're making the same argument for USC, one loss, win their conference, a number of ranked wins, it's going to be hard not to make that argument for Clemson. If TCU loses their next two games, that immediately is going to put them definitely in the debate. Sean is an extra level of frozen. We will give him a second here.
All right. Am I back?
There you go. Yes, you're back.
Okay.
Thoughts on what I just said?
Yeah, I think Baylor, the way they played on Saturday, would beat Clemson. I think there's a lot of teams that are better than Clemson, and that could beat Clemson on any given Saturday. It's not a complete team. It's not the team, man. That's not what they do. They're not going to the playoffs this year. We can all watch them go out and play and look sweet and watch Will Shipley do Will Shipley things, but not in that championship, not in the first round of the playoffs. Thanks. Not during. Very funny.
That's a great comment.
No, it's not Clemson's year. It's not Alabama's year. It is not any team that is. The frauds have finally been filtered through. We were at the mines, right? We were sitting there. It's 1949. We're heading out west to go get some gold. Okay, let me get my pan. Filter. Okay, filter. Here's some wash. Okay, is that fake gold, real gold, just chunks of rock? Filter. And this last week, we got through a very fine filter where now we get to see the gold. And everybody else, Tennessee, whoever the fuck, Ole Miss, all the Clemson, Alabama, all these other teams that got left behind in the filter, UNC, fuckos, they're gone. This is the concrete. This is the only thing that I'm capable in my mind of working with is who has a real shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Clemson.
I have to say, you're on a streak of the past couple shows of on a Colin Cowherd-esque simile and metaphor streak.
Thank you. I'm a very talented broadcaster. I'm glad you're acknowledging that.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying.
No, thank you.
The metaphors every week. I love that
I'm very talented.
Up these off the rip. Mine are a lot more ham-fisted. I'm very much. By the way, so I want to talk about TCU. Before we do, though, again, anyone who's joining us, drop a comment. But we actually have a really great comment from Brian C., who was listening to you complain about traffic. And he says, I'm a roadway design engineer and traffic engineer, coincidentally. So, Brian, who does Sean need to get in touch with to fix the traffic system?
I guess it would be Brian. I need to know if he thinks that if I have a possible idea that could solve and fix the country. Can we fix the country with my idea for traffic? If you say no, Brian, I'm booting and blocking you from the stream for life. That's just where I'm standing. I'll have Joe do it. I need to know because if you're a true roadway design engineer and traffic engineer, coincidentally, let me know if you think it would work and let me know what I would have to do to get this implemented.
I'm sure a real professional with actual understanding of how it works, I'm sure that Brian would be very quick to say, no, that would not work. But I'm sure that your semantics were entertaining for him for a very brief period of time.
Joe, we know a lot of professionals, right? Just professionals in our daily lives.
Yeah.
How many of them know what they're doing?
Very few.
Yeah.
So you're saying Brian doesn't know what he's doing? That's
no. I just need to do it. I just need to see some rationale.
Okay.
Look, there's a lot of mechanics on Twitter. There's a lot of mechanics. You see a comment, go look at a car repair video. Every comment below. Why'd you use that wrench? What are you doing with zip ties? That's not what you want to do. There's a lot of mechanics on Twitter. A lot of plumbers on Twitter. That's not how I would do it. Okay. Can you do it then? Because I'm watching one guy do it and one guy isn't doing it.
This response, I think, is effectively sums up the just.
It does. I got him thinking about it. I got his mind.
Moving. I think it's like
I have him thinking about it.
I think that's what that is. By the way, we did have a Discord at one point a while back when this had a completely different name when we were just removed from college. Maybe we'll bring that back to life because we've got a bigger following than we did on Get to the Point, which was the original show that we did. To answer the question on the call-in show thing, I don't think we're there yet. I think at some point that we're going to probably try to do that, but we would need to be in the same room, right? It would be too difficult to try and do that remotely.
Pin the latest one. Go ahead, pin it. Of course it'd be tough. Of course it is. But that's what we need. That's what we need. You got to make an effort to not get slapped with a $1,200 ticket. You got to make an effort. It's going to be tough, but our lives will be better for it. You think building the Great Wall of China was easy? Of course not. But look what they got. A wall that you can see from space.
They should make it as difficult as it is to fly a plane, to fly a car. I think that would simplify it. Should require a certain amount of hours with an instructor, and it shouldn't just be handed to you. Jesus Christ.
Of course it's going to be tough. I would hope it would be.
What was tough, Sean, was TCU's winning against Baylor.
Oh, there you go.
This game was very nerve-wracking because I showed up on the SEC show and talking about how I think TCU is winning all these close games, and they've got a really underrated defense, and their offense can score a touchdown in a minute if they need to. And I was just getting blasted by LSU fans. And after that whole debate,
they look like the show is bring Joe in to have all the good old boys in LSU just decide to just kick the hell out of you, to put the boots to you.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I like it. There's some days where I'm supportive.
Where's that city boy at?
It's like, the Brian Kelly haters here. The Brian, the Notre Dame for him today.
I got something for him today. Put me on.
The chat is not kind to me for that SEC show. But after all that, Blake was having the time of his life on Twitter, tagging me every 15 minutes. TCU, here comes Baylor, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. Like I can't do this. Like I can't show my face again after the show that I had, and also the same thing almost happened with USC. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna show my face on any show again if I'm making these picks. They end up fighting and staying in it. And TCU has shown this ability to win games that they're completely out of, games that they're supposed to lose. And I think that grit and that toughness says a lot for a team. I still believe that this team is far better than the undefeated Cincinnati team that made the bracket. And if we're going to put that team in, and if TCU runs the table and they're undefeated, we shouldn't be trying to make mental gymnastics to put LSU in over them or other teams over them. They deserve to be there. Sean, do you agree with that?
You know how the Vikings were like 8-1, and everyone's like, "Oh, they got all these close wins by one score." There was kind of a thing about them, like they're such a quiet, slept-on 8-1 team. Look at how the way they get their wins. I'm like, well, it doesn't feel the same way. I never felt the same way about them that I do about TCU. There's a different way that they handle themselves in a game that's close, whereas TCU, I mean, when it was out of it and they missed the 2-point conversion,
I thought they were done.
TCU thought they were done. Defense goes out and makes a great stop. And there were visuals of the running back who dropped the pass and Duggan that missed the pass, and they're just on the sidelines like shoot depressed that they thought their season was over. They get the ball back to work immediately. Back to work. We have another shot. We're gonna go get it done. It was so, I don't know how many other people noticed it, but I'm like, these college football players were so ready, and they were accepting it. They're like, we just blew it. We blew our shot to the playoff. We're TCU. They counted us out. We were going to prove them wrong. We're going to prove them wrong, and then we proved them right. And then that was the mood on the sideline. And then, fuck that. I'm Max Duggan. I got these brass clangers between my legs. Up. I'm going to go down the field. I'm going to march us down, and then I'm going to let my coach try to throw the game away, but it doesn't matter because my teammates listened on Thursdays during our fire drill. They listened, and they went out there, and they kicked the game-winning field goal. That's what we did. And we lived to fight another day.
I forget what I'm blanking on what Coach Dykes. I want to go check the clip, but Coach Dykes had a really fun name for what they call their NASCAR field goal. I want to get to that in a second because I know that you and I greatly disagree on the philosophy behind doing that. And I actually found out some more evidence that actually supports me because somebody commented on my original tweet. But I will say, though, I have a lot of confidence if the game is ever on the line for TCU to score in a late situation. I have the utmost confidence. The fact that they continue to do this on a week-to-week basis and in multiple games. And like what you're talking about, like Duggan nutted up. Like you see a lot of teams hang their heads when they're out of football games, when they think that they're out of football games. But I look at Duggan every time that things aren't going well, like in the Texas game, he's getting hit every other play. He's getting sacked. He's got no time to move. He looks frustrated. But it's not like shit, no one's blocking frustrated. It's like, come on, guys, let's get together. We're going to make this play happen. You just see the way that he is rallying his guys. Like I keep seeing that from Bo Nix too. Like Bo Nix has this like, hey, get focused. We're going to get this. We're going to score right here. That type of leadership is unquantifiable.
Now, doesn't matter. We'd prefer it to be 3rd and 9, but it's 3rd and 18. Let's move forward. That's how he operates. Not all right, well, let's throw this screen and get it over with.
Alex Frank is back to hear. Perfect timing to hear us talk about his Horned Frogs. All right, Sean, let's get into this.
You want to get it? Let's get
debate.
It over
okay,
with. Come on.
So
I'll teach you about football here.
They miss an extra point, which forced them to go for a 2-point conversion, which they did not convert on. Your kicker's confidence is not completely depleted, but decreased in this circumstance. To kick a game-winning field goal is hard. Now, as a former specialist, I will say, and talking to many kickers in my lifetime of different levels, a lot of them will say when you're thrust into a situation where you don't have the time to overthink your steps and to over-evaluate the situation and think like, okay, I'm on this hash, I'm 3 yards away from the right hash, and I need to do this, this, and this. Like, the wind's going this way. If you just line up and kick it, a lot of kickers will tell you, if I go out there and I just swing, I'm more likely to hit it than if I'm out there with time to over-evaluate. Which is why, in that over-evaluation aspect, is why teams ice the kicker. Because you'll go out, you'll hit the first one, and then you're just standing there. You're just standing there thinking, like, man, like, you're either getting way too ahead of yourself. Like, if I hit this field goal where I'm going to go do this and this, I'm be excited. I can't wait to do this after the game. Or it's the other way around. Like, what happens if I miss this kick? What are my teammates going to say to me? The season's on the line. Those types of things can take a kicker out of a football game. And I think the decision, I will say, to run the football was risky. And I think that the expectation was They're not going to be expecting it. Maybe we run the football here. We go and get a first down. It's even closer to hit. That didn't work. I will admit, clearly did not work. That was not intentional. I don't believe that was intentional. It was a risk that did not pan out. Right.
How could it have been?
But to run out on a NASCAR type situation, they had enough time to operate in a NASCAR. I have been in so many practices where we're given 10, 15 seconds to operate a NASCAR field goal. And, it's enough time to get the ball down and snap it. It's rushed, but it's enough time to get the ball down and snap it. In that circumstance, though, I did not know this, but if it is a game-winning field goal attempt, I want to find the exact quote for the rule. Somebody commented on it earlier, and I just want to make sure I have this exactly.
All right.
Wait 1 second.
Take your time.
Team B should reasonably expect that Team A will attempt a field goal in this situation and should have its field goal defensive unit ready. The umpire will not stand over the ball, as there should be no issue on the defense getting on the field. So that basically says if there's a game-winning field goal type situation, there is no, make good effort there to allow both teams to substitute. You got to substitute. So you are catching your defense off guard. You're catching your opponent off guard with not enough time to call a timeout. You're basically telling them and forcing them to call the timeout to then give you time to get actually properly set up. It is a galaxy brain move, in my opinion, and it worked. If it didn't work, I think the debate might be different, but it was a smart move in my eyes that almost went bad, but it set them up perfectly.
The risk and the reward, and maybe to Fresh's comment, why Sonny Dykes could be a year, and the Kansas head coach name is Lance Leipold, so just to fill him in. It's risky, very risky. You're comparing a kicker to a pitcher here because pitchers are very, very finicky. Pitchers are very, very easy to get in their own head. And
kickers are more easier too. Sorry.
I understand the point that a kicker that just has that you say, okay, you're in the mix, you're in the fire, go do it. This is it. Now it's just up to you. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to think pull, push, just think make, just think make, just think make. That's your mantra. You're going out, you got it going. And you're good. I get that. Clear head, there's nothing else I can do about it. It's a situation, there's nothing else I can do. I got to go kick this ball. And when that is presented to a human being, I can understand why it would be more successful. The operation, though, is so unconventional and risky. And the way that they did that with a weird spike and the timing, it's like it was like Mike McCarthy almost, the way that he's managing the clock. And if he's playing chess and I'm playing checkers, congratulations. He probably was. But from the standpoint of go down, securely get to a point to have your kicker kick a field goal, I still think a kicker or a pitcher is going to throw a strike or a kick no matter the circumstances. If he gets in his head, he gets in his head. There's still plenty of time for him to get in his head while he's running up on the field. Oh, I'm going to the pitcher or the kicker, no matter the circumstances, even though you provided very good anecdotal evidence, it is my belief that they're going to throw the strike or they're going to throw the ball regardless.
So then why the hell do teams ice the kicker?
For the chance to get in their head.
It's a psychological thing more than it is.
It's so odd though, Joe, because today Brett Maher of the Dallas Cowboys kicked it and made a 60-yard field goal at the end of the first half, right? Kicked and made a 60-yarder. Super impressive. Apparently, the catch on the play from Dak Prescott to CeeDee Lamb to get them in a field goal position was challenged right before the call. So he had like 10 minutes of downtime, had to go back out there, kick another 60-yard field goal, and he still made it. So I know he's an NFL player, an NFL kicker, but at the same time, at least from today, I'm seeing that kickers are either going to make the kick or they're going to miss the kick.
But my added note on that is that he missed a kick leading up to that. He missed his last option to kick. I don't know. I don't disagree with where you're coming from, but I just feel from my relationships and my knowledge of being a specialist and knowing kickers and all that shit, I know that sometimes setting those guys up in those situations is more advantageous. And it worked.
It can be, but that's not also if that's the situation where I'm that worried about it, then that's not the kicker for my team.
Comment from Alex Frank. I was at the game with my boys besides Baylor. being a dry campus and not selling
Boo.
beer and spirits like TCU, which stinks. Too Cold University. I like that. Do they make shirts with that? Being down as a senior by 2 with 2 minutes to go was scary as F. Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of not only I was scared for you guys as somebody who's
nuts.
supporting.
It was nuts. It's a crazy ass game. It was a good game.
Who did Florida State play? Again, like this isn't like me like not paying attention and being misinformed. There was just so much shit that happened yesterday that like I can't keep up with everything that happened.
Oh, Florida kicked the shit out of Louisiana, 49-17. The Raging Cajuns.
No, Florida State.
Florida State. That's what I meant.
Oh,
Florida lost to Vanderbilt. Yeah,
and that's another thing too. That's like a
college football's the worst.
No,
It's the worst.
No, it's the other way around. It's the greatest. It is the greatest sport out there because college basketball.
Okay.
No.
College basketball is the best, but college football stinks.
College football is the best because we can have a bad week and Spencer Rattler, the biggest bozo quarterback in all of the country, can have a Heisman moment out of nowhere and lead his team to victory. And things like that can't happen in any other sport. That doesn't happen in the NFL. And when people get excited about it happening in the NFL, it's because of it reminds us of what happens in college.
I understand. I understand the appeal, Joe. I do a show about
it. Drake May lost his Heisman yesterday.
Don't worry, he'll get it next year.
Yeah, it's not like he's a underclassman, but no, he did. Them losing Georgia Tech is bad.
It's true, terrible.
All right, let's get to just like one more question before we wrap up, Sean. Alex Frank, by the way, I never heard you guys, but your thoughts on Kendre Miller post-Texas?
Same thing for me. It's the same thing. He's a great running back. Unfortunately, his quarterback is a fucking baller, gangster, go down and win the game. That's the unfortunate thing for Kendre Miller. He's getting overshadowed by the most important player on the field. Yeah. And that's going to be the case. It's not taking away from him. His stock is going up. It is. He's a great running back. He has some great plays. Unfortunately for him personally, Duggan is that dude.
And to that point, it's only a positive that you have a guy like this. Like
yes.
It's
like a net positive.
Bijan is the best player on that offense, and everybody hasn't been playing up to their capability. But here with Kendre, like Kendre can have a bad game, and Duggan and Quentin Johnson can step up. But if everyone else is struggling, Kendre's good enough to step up as well, and we've seen him do it. And
yeah,
again, he's just been overshadowed. It was on us for not bringing him up enough. Sean, that's going to wrap us up on at Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the turn the bell on for the next time that we go live. I don't know if we'll go live in the middle of the week. If not, we're probably just going to drop a typical preview show as we usually do. Thanks, folks. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Sure, I didn't need to say anything at the end of this.